Hello, and thank you for joining this briefing by the Jerusalem Press Club. I'm Jonathan Beck, Director of Content. Today's Thursday, June 19. This is day 7 of Operation Rising Lion, which is Israel's preemptive war against Iran's nuclear and ballistic weapons program. Our special guest today is unique from the experts we had during the week. But first, I'd like to say a few words. This has been a tough week with serious rocket attacks every night. And I would just like to mention our listeners that we also have some capability to mentally assist. If you're feeling any stress, etc., you can write to us at info@Jerusalem Press Club. We are, of course, discreet, and we have, we don't have shrinks on hand, but we do have some ways to help. That's regarding this. Secondly, for a bit of housekeeping, is that if there is a siren, you're not going to see me duck and cover like the IRIB reporter, but I'll quietly leave and rejoin the Zoom in a different room. Now to present our guest. Our guest is Dr. Saeed Ghasseminejad. Good afternoon in Israel and good morning in the US. Saeed, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So Dr. Rasim Najad is a senior Iranian financial economics advisor at the Federation of Defense for Democracies. He's a specialist in Iran's economy and financial markets, also its efforts to secure sanctions, illicit finance efforts, money laundering, etc. But for the purpose of this briefing, he was born and raised in Iran post the Islamic Republic. He left Iran in 2008 and has been a political prisoner there. So I'm sure our listeners would very much like, before we discuss the current war, to hear your own personal story in brief, Dr. Ghasseminejad. And please correct me if I'm mispronouncing your name.
You actually pronounced it, your pronunciation has been one of the best ones ever outside Iran. So that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all the participants who are here. So as you said, I was born and raised in Iran. I left Iran when I was 25 or 26. I think I am one of the few people, if not the only one, who had the privilege of being abducted in his own car by the IRGC intelligence and driven to the Evin prison, the notorious Evin prison, inside my own car. So I think that's one of that's the unique thing about me. I left Iran in 2008, as you said. I have been working with FDD for more than a decade. We have been fortunate at FDD to have the opportunity given the opportunity by the administration, by the US Congress, to help design the economic warfare, the sanctions against the Islamic Republic, and helping and identifying the targets of economic warfare, like the Supreme Leader's business empire, like the IRGC's business empire, and the networks of sanction busting and things like that. And for that, I think the regime really doesn't like me. They, like in the IRGC controlled Fars news, like I think 2 years ago or 2 years ago it was, that they complained to the authority, which it's the Ministry of Intelligence and IRGC intelligence usually, that why this Saeed Ghasseminejad is still free. So I'm happy to be here and happy to answer any question.
Okay, thank you very much. What I would very much like to receive from you today is, we're in Israel, we're getting most of the information from official press releases by the IDF spokesperson, etc. And we do know that there have been turns, unusual turns, even like a tweet, calling on Iranian civilians to join the Mossad and stuff like that. Could you maybe speak from your communications with people inside Iran about the sentiment inside Iran toward the Israeli preemptive attack that started just about a week ago?
I think the sentiment in general at the beginning was shock and a joy among a majority of population when they saw like the heads of the IRGC have been eliminated, because a lot of people who are being eliminated, like the heads of IRGC, head of IRGC intelligence, these are the people who have oppressed the Iranian people for a long, long time. So when Iranian people see those targets are being eliminated, I think a lot of them are feeling very happy about it. And to know where that feeling comes from, Iranian people have risen 3 times since 2017. Each time in more than 150, 100, 140, 150 cities and towns. And each time they have been brutally repressed by the regime. That's the only way that the regime survived. Like, for example, in 2019, the regime shut down the internet for like 3-4 days. And during those 3-4 days, they killed 1,500 unarmed protesters. There have been a lot of rape, a lot of torture, and for that reason, the Iranian people, majority of them, I'm not saying 100%, but absolute majority of them, they hate the IRGC. So when they are targeted, there is no love lost between the Iranian people and the IRGC, the Basij, these tools of repression. The general sense is that the Iranian people are in shock. The life is quite disrupted in Tehran because there have been calls to evacuate. And Tehran is the target, the city that has been most heavily targeted. In other cities, the life is not disrupted as much as Tehran. The regime has a campaign to pretend that life in Tehran is normal. It's not. I'm in touch with people and group in Iran, across the country and in Tehran. The life in Tehran is pretty much disrupted.
There's a few things going on together. I mean, from one hand, there's Trump calling on people to evacuate Iran. On the other hand, from the messages Israel is receiving, the IDF is being the IAF, the Air Force, is being very surgical in its strikes. And while people have been killed, it doesn't look like it's doing any sort of mass bombings like way back a year ago in Gaza or something. So first of all, specifically, I would like you to address maybe the issue of, yes, I think it was yesterday, the bombing of the TV station, with people around the world saying, why is Israel now bombing civilian targets? So you mentioned tools of the IRGC and tools of the regime. I understand the bombing of the Basij headquarters. What I would, if you could illuminate maybe, for example, would that radiate on the operation of the Basij across Iran? I mean, I understand how damaging the TV station is gonna stop at least their studio broadcasts. But can you say, for example, is that seen differently? And regarding the mood in Tehran, like how much of it is organic, like people saying, okay, there's a war, let's flee, and how much of it is with genuine fear because of the disruption of life, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, one point that I want to make, look, seeing innocent civilians being harmed on both sides is heartbreaking. The regime in Tehran, they are harming civilians intentionally. Israel doesn't do that. But seeing innocent civilians anywhere, Israel, Iran, any country being harmed is heartbreaking. But this is Khamenei's war, and it's his fault. Like Khamenei has been given opportunity after opportunity to come clean, to abandon its pursuit of the nuclear bomb. And what happened is that he consistently refused that, while chanting death to America, death to Israel. So the feeling in Iran is that the Islamic Republic has created this for Iranians. And again, majority of Iranians hate the regime for what it has done to Iran for the past 4 decades, and the war that we see now, because this is regime's doing. On IRIB, look, IRIB, it's a torture TV. IRIB is part of the oppression machine in Iran. It's part of the it's an institution that's deeply embedded in the oppression inside and terrorism outside. So it's not I don't know, it's not CNN, it's not Fox News, it's not I-24, it's not France 24. It's like Al-Manar. Al-Manar is not a normal TV. Al-Manar is a tool of terrorism. IRIB is a tool of state terrorism. A lot of people who are there, they work very closely with the IRGC intelligence, Ministry of Intelligence. A lot of them are members of Basij, which Basij itself is a branch of the IRGC. So these are not journalists. A lot of them, some of them maybe, but a lot of them are not journalists. These are people who have chosen that they want to work with an institution that is harming the Iranian people and harming people in the region, and they are working closely with it. So, and majority of Iranians hate IRIB. They don't watch it, they don't like it. A lot of Iranians are watching like outside Persian satellite TV. A lot of them are watching like non-Persian satellite TV. IRIB is hated. The regime itself knows. They always complain that despite us giving so much money to the IRIB, it really doesn't have the audience that we expect because of this, because of its role in oppression and terrorism. On the headquarters of Basij, something that we should know, we see like 4 types of targets that Israel is going after, has been going after. The nuclear, at the beginning, targets focused on nuclear a lot. Then you have the military plus missile side, air defense. Again, at the beginning, we saw a lot of these sites being targeted. Then you have economic infrastructure. We haven't seen a consistent campaign of going after economic infrastructure. There was a day that you had like Tehran refinery hit, the gas, the fuel depot have been hitting around Tehran, and in the South Port gas field. After that, you have had like targeting here and there, but we haven't seen a consistent targeting of economic infrastructure. For example, if Israel had the plan, when it decides to go as a campaign against the economic infrastructure, it would be like Hark terminal, which is 80% of Iran's crude oil export goes through that. It would be like the Star Persian Gulf refinery, which like 45% of the gas is produced there. So we haven't seen that. And the 4th type of target are the institutions that are in charge of domestic oppression and political symbols. So IRIB was both. It was a symbolic target. It was also part of the domestic oppression. The headquarters of Basij is that. The headquarters of the IRGC intelligence is that. Yesterday, you had the headquarters of police targeted. It's like right above it, you have the Star Allah garrison, which is in charge of security of Tehran. That was not targeted to the best of my knowledge. So we see the campaign now shifting towards targeting like these political symbols and the institutions that are in charge of domestic oppression. That's quite important and very meaningful in the sense that if you have these institutions weakened enough, right now the command and control are disrupted, but the reports that we get is that you still have like the security forces deployed on the streets of Tehran. Even though the reports also we get that a lot of members are not showing up, but still you have enough members of these forces showing up that they are still in control of the street. If they are weakened enough, if the command and control is gone, and if you see, for example, in the city of Tehran, you have Sar Allah garrison, there are like 10, 15 places that are the places that these forces gather there, their equipments are there. That's their, local headquarters. If you see the targeting of these places, and then you have like this machine really weakened, not just the command and control lost, but you like the its body is weakened, not just the head, not just decapitating, but the body is weakened. There is a very good chance that the people will come to the street to finish the thing. Because since 2017, we have seen a change in Iran, a structural change from reform to revolution. The dominant discourse has become revolution. And they came 3 times to the street to finish the regime. The only reason that the regime survived is its oppression machine, which has been quite effective.
Okay, thank you for this very detailed response. So you're saying even today, those mechanisms are still, because people are asking, including one journalist, and also as a more general question, and I would like to also tie this to things that were said by an Israeli expert. We hosted yesterday, very respected Israeli former general and expert who said that regime change, even though it might be something that Israel wishes for, can never be achieved by Israel. The sort of the finishing foot must be Iranian, and the question is why is there still not yet like a sort of run in the palaces or people on the street? One thing you mentioned is weakening the body and not the head. And is there also reason, for example, of a vacuum of leadership, sort of? I mean, I see this the son of the Shah making videos, but I'm not sure like if he's got wide support or if he's just like jumping on the bandwagon. Is there another figure who might kind of fill the vacuum and overtake a potential fall of the Ayatollah regime?
So on why they are not still on the street. So one reason is that the war is going on. So when you have like this constant targeting, that's a bit difficult, both in terms of like when there is a war, it's very difficult to bring like mass of people to street, organizing that. The second thing is that, as I said, the streets are still in control of the regime. There have been decapitation. The command and control is disrupted to a certain degree in Tehran, but still it shows that the command and control is still in place to the degree that they can deploy the security forces. So there will be a point if this campaign continues, focuses on like leadership, focuses on the institutions of the oppression machine, that the oppression machine is weakened enough that a trigger can bring like people to street. I think we would see that if we see a continuation of campaign. On the point of leadership, about Reza Pahlavi, the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. So one thing that if you look at Iran carefully since 2017, the name Pahlavi constantly comes up in protest. So his grandfather's name has become a fixture of protests in Iran. Reza Shah, bless your soul. His own name, even like during this war, you have videos coming out of Iran, people on rooftop and from the window chanting, "This is the last battle. Pahlavi will return." Or you see the chant of the prince, Iran is ready, give the order. So he is by far the only person who has support. So this we see based on like some polls that are out there, polls in Iran. It's very trusting them. It's quite difficult. But more important than that, this is what we see in the chants, in the graffitis, and no one's the name of and no one else's name comes up. That's even more important. So we have never seen people chanting in the street, so someone else's name like that. His name constantly comes up. So he has the support. Uh, he has in like I think 3 months ago, something like that. He gathered like 35 political opposition groups who signed the 12-point statement about like what they want, like the secular democracy, human rights, territorial integrity, giving people the option to choose the form of the government in a free and fair election, whether it will be a monarchy or a republic. I think those 12 points talks about, if I'm not mistaken, what kind of government that they want after the regime change. And they also mentioned that they agree, all of them, that Reza Pahlavi is the leader of revolution and transition, and after that there will be a free and fair election. Whoever wins the election will be, I don't know, if it's a constitutional monarchy, will be prime minister. If it's a republic, will be president. So that's his plan, and I think he's someone that actually can lead the Iranian people, given his level of support and given the fact that there is really no one else. If not him, then the other option that we may see some kind of change is if someone inside the regime decides that this is really too much for them because they gathered a lot of wealth, a lot of assets. This is what's happening. It's not good for them. We also see a lot of chatters about insiders are being upset. So that's also one option, that you will have like some kind of Islamic Republic, but not with like Khamenei. Does that help our case, in general, Israel, the United States, the Iranian people? I don't think so, because this is a regime that over and over has shown, okay, when the pressure is high enough, you may see some retreat. But when the pressure is gone, they will go and rebuild it. The threat to Israel is what? The nuclear, ballistic missile, support for terrorism. Right now, in all three aspects, Israel has won considerable wins, But let's say, okay, this doesn't lead to regime change in Iran. What will happen? They will start rebuilding the nuclear program. They will start rebuilding the ballistic missile program. They will start arming all the terrorist groups. So this only kick the can down the road. They are at their weakest point now. And what should everyone think about is how this opportunity can be used to actually bring down this regime. Something you mentioned, the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. So one thing that he has always said is that the solution to bring down this regime is max pressure on the regime, maximum support for the Iranian people, and maximum defection from the regime. So the defection from the regime, which is right now, a lot of them are ripe for that. It's something that can happen with the help of, capable intelligence services. So that's something that probably should be, at the forefront of efforts of those who want the regime to be gone.
I would like to ask about economic pressures, but first, segueing from what you just said, in your opinion, as an Iranian national, essentially, this tweet by leading civilians to the Mossad, is it likely to receive thousands of hits, few hits, none at all, create revulsion among the people, or what's the range that we can think about?
Look, the Israelis have a very good intelligence inside Iran. Why is that? It's because a lot of Iranians hate the regime. So there are obviously two types of people who have been helping Israel, I guess. One type are those who hate the regime, and one type are those who, maybe they're looking for reward. But if the regime in Iran was not hated like this, there wouldn't be the opportunity. There would have not been the opportunity for the Israeli intelligence community to recruit so many people inside the regime, outside the regime, and gain such good intelligence. So my guess is that probably a lot of people will try to, see how they can, if it leads to getting rid of the regime, they see it as an opportunity. Look, what Iranians, the chatters that we see from conversation with people in Iran and what we see on like social media is that a lot of Iranians are very worried that this would not lead to the end of the regime, to the fall of the regime, and then what happens next would be much more brutal, much scarier than what we have seen over the past 4 decades. So that's in the mind of Iranians right now, that what if the regime survives?
Okay, thank you for this. Now, zooming in on the economic sanctions, and especially since you're an expert in this field, I'd like to also tie it to the question of the besieged. I'm not sure if it was yesterday or the day before, an Israeli hacker, a hacker team tied to Israel, etc., hacked into a cryptocurrency exchange. I forgot the name now, but it was said that this is used by the IRGC, and they siphoned 1.7, almost basically there was $1.8 billion there, and apart from $100 million, everything else was stolen. So first of all, regarding the financial sanctions, obviously after this, people have even more trouble getting money. And secondly, would you say that such a hit to this crypto bank does affect, the salaries of besieged people elsewhere in Iran, may bring about the situations you said were necessary, basically, for the Iranian people to go to the streets and rise up?
So there was a hit on there was a hacking of the like crypto firm. I have to check the numbers, whether it was in billion or million. So that one, these crypto channels are usually used by the IRGC for money laundering. So it's not for the, giving salary to members of Basij or IRGC or MOIS. But there was a targeting of many banks, including the Sepah Bank, the Banque Sepah. So that's a bank that's heavily used by the IRGC, Basij, these organizations. So if what they say is true, I haven't checked today what's the situation with that. But if this is seriously disrupted, so yes, that would really affect them. We can expect that. The financial sanctions in general, we have to wait and see what's the oil exports this month, because under the Trump administration, the oil export has remained quite high. It has been like around like 1.6 million, 1.5 million. The last one I think was around 1.4 in months of May. So we have to wait and see what will happen in June. As I said, they haven't targeted the oil export facilities, but we have to wait and see whether the tankers are have been willing to go to a place that can be essentially a war zone, because Khark is definitely a target in the mind of Israelis. I'm sure they're thinking about it, and see whether it goes, it has gone down or no.
Okay, thank you very much for this. What else I'd like to ask you is, hold on a second, is regarding basically what would create a shift. You mentioned earlier like the facilities of the economy. Is there a chance of creating a shift in the economy's perception of the Israeli attacks? And you mentioned how much the regime is almost is so hated. Is there anything that would sort of totally turn them around to the point of actually rallying around the flag and rallying around even the nuclear program or something like that? Or I mean, some Israeli action, like you mentioned 4 types of targets, etc. So I'm asking, is there a fifth civilian thing that might, impact the economy in an economy already under such pressure? that would maybe turn around the Iranian people's sentiment during this war?
So a rally around the flag. Look, why is Khamenei intentionally targeting hospital? I have also seen report, I don't know if it's true or not, that Iran used, the Islamic Republic used the cluster bomb, the
They have,
cluster missile.
and indeed, I did mention the Israeli side too much, but they have today directly hit a major hospital in Beersheba, essentially the biggest hospital in southern Israel.
So the goal, Khamenei right now, what he wants, what he's seeking, is for Israel to do similar thing, because Khamenei needs a lot of Iranian civilians dead to do what you just said, to change the sentiment, to say, okay, the Islamic Republic is bad, but Israel is worse. Now we are defending you. Another thing that they have been consistently saying is that Israel's goal is not just for the Islamic Republic to go. Israel's goal is to see that Iran is destroyed, that Iran become Iranistan, that Israelis are in bed with separatist Kurds, with the separatist Baluchis, with the separatists here and there. And what they want to do is that they want to destroy the nation of Iran. So that's another line of propaganda they have. So if Israel, if there is a signal sent by Israel that yes, indeed, this is a plan, it hasn't come from the government, so this is not the plan. The Bibi Netanyahu has been using language that is praising Iran's history, praising the Iranian people. So far, that's propaganda that they are using, that Israel's goal is to destroy Iran as a nation, work with separatists. They don't have much to work. Like I saw something came out from Jerusalem Post editorial yesterday that suggested that Israel should work with separatists. That's quite bad. That can have a rally around flag. A lot of civilians dead can change the sentiment. So these are, but the regime is so much hated that Israel should really do very big mistakes to see a rally around the flag. I really don't see any rally around the flag outside those segments of society that have been in supporting the regime. Those segments of the society that haven't been supporting the regime, they are not supporting the regime. They are still against the regime. Those reformists, hardliners, they have been always part of the regime. They are part of the regime right now too. So I hope I answered the question.
Thank you for this. Sorry, it took me a second to unmute. I had some technical issue here. I would like to ask a forward-looking question to summarize this, and it's a bit speculative, but maybe tell me what you think, or maybe I'm totally off the mark. Supposing the regime collapses in so many days, and someone like Reza Pahlavi wants to come to Iran, and even the Iranian army says we'll support him, restore order. Is it likely to see a sort of civil war or so between forces loyal to the IRGC, residual forces loyal to a dying regime, fighting the Iranian army of years gone, and besieged fighting police, things like that? Or am I completely off the mark here in looking at this?
I don't see a civil war. So when we reach that point, it's the point that you have had defection, as you say, and the defection is not just would not just be from the army. There will be a lot of defection from the IRGC itself, but the IRGC has two parts. One part is that section that is very ideological, And the other part is that in Iran, a country that there have been, because of the mismanagement, because of the incompetence, because of the corruption, there haven't been a lot of economic opportunities. You also have like people in the IRGC who are there because they are corrupt. And they most likely, if the, if the pressure is high enough, they will defect. They will try to negotiate to, keep something for themselves or not be tried, not be killed, not be murdered. So, and they will join. There is a small percentage of the regime's base that is ideological, will remain a problem. But when we get there to the point that the regime's command and control is destroyed, that the political leadership is destroyed, it's very unlikely that they are organized enough, at least during a period of time, that they create, that they can put a very strong fight. Yes, if during that transition period, the transitional government cannot, manage the situation well, there is a chance that these forces can organize themselves and try to take the country back. But I don't see that. I just want to mention one point. So I think we see there are like several passes now. One is that if the Americans put the pressure on Israel at some point, for example, let's say US comes and hit Fordo and say, okay, you said, okay, you want the nuclear issue, the nuclear was your issue. Now Fordo is gone. Let's end it. Can be an option. I'm not saying this is the dominant option, but that can be an option.
Essentially leaving the regime very weak, but on its legs, yeah.
Yeah, leaving the regime without the nuclear program, but on its leg. I think that would be a quite bad option for everyone. It would be very bad for Israel too, because as I said, the regime is quite weak now. There is a real opportunity to get rid of it. If the regime remains there, it will go for the nuclear bomb. It will go to rebuild its ballistic missile. It will go to use the resources. Yes, sorry.
It would probably rush to them. I'm saying it would feel an urgency after the war to do this, yeah.
Yeah, let's say Fordo is gone now, but the knowledge and some of the infrastructure will remain, and they will try to do it later. So that's a bad option, I think. The best option is if in a merge of what Israel is doing, weakening the regime, and a genuine protest from inside Iran, like what we have seen in 2022, 2019, 2017, they come to street, take the country back, and then put a government, put a regime, put a political system in Iran, which is quite friendly toward Israel, toward its neighbor, because most Iranians want to live in peace, prosperity, and safety. Iranians are actually, if you look at what they have been saying, like on the street, from 2009, actually, no to Gaza, no to Lebanon. I give my life for Iran. Some other things that maybe even like more politically incorrect. I won't say it here so you don't get banned by YouTube. But you have had like a lot of pro-Israel sentiment and chants in Iran. So if that happens, it will be really a game changer for the whole region, and it will be a game changer for the United States too, because the isolationist party in the United States, what do they say? They say we want to leave Middle East. Why are they in the Middle East? Because of the regime in Tehran. That's what requires the United States to have such a heavy presence here. Those troops will be freed. They can go to the East Asia. So for everyone, for the US, for Israel, and for the Iranian people, for the neighbors, for Saudis, UAE, like in all these other countries, the fall of the regime is the best option. We are at that point. We are at a point that the regime is very weak, and this is an opportunity that everyone should take and push this to its natural end.
Okay, Dr. Rasim Najad, thank you very much for this. So really, just a final question before we summarize. Continuing on the thing you said about the US, etc. Yesterday, there were reports of, I think, 3 airplanes taking off from Iran to Oman, which is closed to air travel. Reportedly, Trump asked Israel not to bomb them. There were many assessments of who was on these planes. There were denials by people in the Iranian government that they were on these planes. Can you tell us maybe who was on those planes?
I I don't know. There are a lot of like rumors that maybe like Iranian negotiators, IRGC, whoever were there. These are just rumors. We haven't seen it. But is it likely that there are some kind of negotiation going on? I don't know. Maybe the United States is giving them the ultimatum that Trump gave them through social. Maybe they are giving them in person. I don't know, but the president has been quite, frank that what he expects from Khamenei is unconditional surrender. And Khamenei has been quite frank that it's not going to happen. And after what Khamenei, and today Israel said that Khamenei is a target. So uh, I don't think even if there is any negotiation, it will go anywhere. I don't see the regime do any unconditional surrender at this point, or any surrender like in terms of like saying, okay, we give up our nuclear program or something like that. It's quite unlikely, at least as long as Khamenei is alive.
Okay, thank you very much for this, Dr. Rasim Najad, speaking to us from the United States. Thank you to the journalists. Just a few words to sum up. This has been our last briefing for this week. We've been doing one every day since the beginning of Israel's preemptive war against Iran, and like others, this is going to be on our YouTube channel later this evening. May I just remind our members who are on the line that there is already expert list for you with contacts, and I'm sure Dr. Wasim Najad, I can maybe add you if journalists want to contact you for some one-on-one questions, if you permit this. That's it. We'll see you in the next Zoom briefing. Thank you very much.